Hey guys, what's up? I For this episode, I actually wanted to introduce you to a to future episodes that I'm going to be doing. They are going to be they're going to be about the Bible and homosexuality. So I'm going to take the verses that we all know and pretty much hate, and compare it, or kind of go in depth as a layman, go in depth and to try to see what the Bible is actually saying, rather than what we keep hearing that the Bible is saying, and what we keep hearing that God is saying, God hates, or whatever the situation is. So but before those episodes that I'm actually already preparing, because I don't want to come at you guys with nothing. I want it to be pretty. I want it to be as well researched as possible. I wanted to bring you this video to kind of prepare you for it. Okay. There's a few things that you will need to keep in mind when watching these videos. Okay. And so I have a list here so that I don't mess mess anything up. So that's why I'll be looking over. The first thing that you're going to need is to know God, and not to feel God. Okay. So in a video before, I've actually already spoken about knowing God, what as opposed to like feeling him or feeling his presence. It's definitely possible that you will feel his presence. Sometimes you will. Most times you probably won't, because I don't think that most people are not that close to God in order to feel his presence constantly. And I think even the prophets had quite a few times where they didn't feel God's presence, which probably brought on so much anguish. For example, Elijah, when Jezebel was after his life, he just freaked out. So you won't always feel his presence, but the thing is, you have to know that even if you don't feel his presence, or even if you feel something that is contrary to what his presence would be, you have to know in your heart. You have to know who he is, and what he has promised. You have to know his. So in order to know God, you have to know his promises. You have to know that if he says he's going to do something, that he will do it. So you have to know his law, and his law could be summed up in, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. That's where Jesus said it himself. That's on the law and the prophets hang on those two laws. Okay, so technically it's really just love. Later on in the chapter in Matthew, he says, I think it was Matthew 22, if I'm not mistaken. He says, sorry, my video went a little fuzzy there. He says, pretty much treat other people the way that you would have to be treated, because upon this hangs the law and the prophets. So again, it's the same thing. Just love people. Okay, so if you don't want to be treated a certain way, don't treat others, because it's going to happen to you, and that's just the way that the law, the way that the law was created. And then also know that God exists. Okay, that's very important, because if you don't believe that he exists, well then, his scriptures really are irrelevant, I suppose. So you want to believe, you want to know that he exists. Okay. The second thing is to believe. Now, this isn't about your religious beliefs or blah blah blah. This is actually believe in God. So it's important to believe that all things will work out for the good of them that love the Lord, and for them that are called according to his purpose. That's in Romans. You also need to believe that if you ask, you will find. If you ask, you will receive. If you seek, you will find. And if you knock, the door will be open. Now, these aren't just things that people say. Jesus didn't just say it just to be saying something. He meant it. And what he meant by it is ask, and I will give it to you, or God will give it to you. Seek, and God will show you, or he will show you how to find it. And knock, and the door will be open to you. Like, that's literally all you have to do. But you have to believe that this is going to happen. Why? Because if you ask and you don't believe it, then you're not even going to be paying attention to whether the answer comes or not. Same thing as if you seek or if you knock. It's you don't just pray about it and then say whatever. No, you pray about it and you believe that he's going to do it, and then you do whatever you have to do. Okay, and believe that he will reveal his will to you, to his desire to you. Okay, so in Jeremiah, he said something to the effect of, if you ask me, ask me and I will show you things that you have never known, and there's also another text in Matthew where where Jesus was like, thank you, God, because you've hidden these things from the wise and prudent and revealed it unto babes. Usually babes are those with pure hearts, who are like attached to God, who just want to do God's will, who wants to do what is right, who don't really know. Generally, they don't know the way. They just trust that God will show them the way or lead them, like a shepherd does their lambs. So just believe that He will, and that He will, He will reveal His word to you. And third, this is probably the hardest thing to do, is that you're probably going to have to confront deeply ingrained beliefs or teachings that you've had since, like, for example, I had since I was like very, very, very young. I was raised in that, and in my church community, my Christian church community. So I had deep beliefs that I had to confront. I had to question. I had to question and make sure that they made sense, and I had to make sure that they were in concordance with what I knew of God and with the Bible. Okay, and certain weren't. For example, my community's teachings on homosexuality, the global teaching, because there are certain in my community who do not partake in that belief that God is against homosexuals or any type of other sexual that is other than heterosexuality. So pansexuality or bisexuality or even transgender or anything like that. Like there are people who don't believe that God has stated that this is wrong, and but the global general belief is that my community thinks that it's wrong. So you're going to have to go against those. You're going to have to be able to question those beliefs. Okay, and you have to have an answer for yourself. Okay, so that's the most. So those are the 3 points that you're really just going to have to take to heart, and you're going to want your heart to be open. You're going to want to know, listen to what God has to say, even if it goes against what you believe, because God's not really concerned about what you believe. He's more concerned about what's in your heart, like what type of person you are, and your actions your fruit, what you produce will show what is in your heart. That's just the way that it is. Okay, so and one last point that I wanted to bring up just real quick is reading the Bible. Okay, so reading the Bible, it can be daunting. Sometimes there's things written in there that just don't make sense. You just don't understand. You're like, God, why? Or whatever the situation is. So I understand that it can be daunting, and there are things that just don't correspond. It seems like they contradict each other. As I was growing up in the church, I heard a lot of people say that the Bible contradicts itself and people, and so it's very understandable that that's what it seems like. Um, but I want to tell you, to confirm to you, that the Bible does make sense. But don't take my word for it, okay? Do never take my word for it. You go back and you research this for yourself, okay? But the Bible makes sense. It makes more sense if you have a relationship with God, not if you have a relationship with the Bible, if you have a relationship with God, okay? Your relationship with God should mirror what's going on in the Bible, things about, things about what God has been said, what God has said, and stuff like that. Like your relationship with God should mirror maybe the relationship that Jesus had with God, or maybe the relationship that Moses had with God, or something like that. It's not going to be exact. It's not going to be the exact same thing. Don't look for it to be the exact same thing, okay? But your relationship with God is going to clarify what is written in the Bible and why it was written, and then it'll start, and then the Bible will actually become cohesive. It has become cohesive to me. I have understood a lot of things that people argue against. They say that God is not this way, or he's mean, and he's vindictive or something like that. And I could see why they say that, but having my own relationship with God, knowing that he's not only just talked with me, but he walks with me daily, and that I can talk to him and ask him things and to show me things. Having that relationship with me, I can understand what's in the Bible, and if people really want to know how I see it, then I can show them. What I know, because I know God, and so when I read the Bible, then it makes more sense. Okay. So those are the 3 points I want to bring out, plus the fact that you really want to have your own relationship with God, because also at the end, you can't really base your relationship with God off of other people, like in the end, it really is just going to be you and God, you really have to be able to stand your ground alone with God. Because people may not always be there to back you up. But God is, if God is for us, who can be against us? Really, really, literally, I have seen God move people out of the way. For me personally, I speak on a personal basis. I've seen God move people out the way because they wanted to oppose me. So really, you just really have to have that relationship with God. I really, really strive to make that point very, very clear. If you don't know how to have a relationship with God, you can definitely contact me, and I can give you some pointers and stuff like that. It's not very hard, but also if you don't know how to do it, then it makes sense. But okay, so just keep that in mind when you're watching my next videos on homosexuality and the Bible. I don't really know what the titles are going to be yet. I might change the description when I do. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.